Namaste and welcome to another Meet the Author show of Organiser. Viewers, 1 year ago, post Pahalgam, India redefined its doctrine related to terrorism. Operation Sindoor actually not just gave a very tough message to Pakistan, the terror sponsoring state, but also shown to the world what precision technology can do while targeting the not just the terror camps but even the bases of Pakistan, just to teach the lesson. And on exactly after 1 year, Major General Dhruv Katoch and Lieutenant General Raj Shukla, they have come up with this wonderful book, Operation Sindoor, 88 Hours that Redefined Deterrence. And to discuss about the book and the entire idea behind this, we have with us Major General Dhruv Katoch. Welcome to Organiser Studio, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for sparing your time. As we know, General Katoch is a very decorated officer of Indian Army. Currently, he is director with India Foundation. Earlier, he was with Claus. And he has been writing on strategic affairs for decades now. So, sir, first of all, you have given a subhead, 88 hours that redefine deterrence. How do you see Operation Sindoor redefining India's deterrence?
Now, I think this has been one of the most significant operations which has been carried out post-independence in India.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving it that much credence.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we have had many wars. We fought the 47-48 war. We fought 65. We fought 71. We fought Kargil.
Mm-hmm.
But this war was different. Because for the first time, what has happened is that the entire technology has changed. The strategies have changed. And we are looking into wars of precision targeting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that was one aspect of it. And India has, I think, over the last 10 years, progressed in leaps and bounds in information technology, in surveillance capability, in ISR capabilities, and of course, in kinetic capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
That is one aspect of it. But one thing I have found is it doesn't really matter what military capability you have. Unless military capability is matched to political will, you really don't get the kind of impact which you need. We saw this convergence of political will with kinetic energy or military action for the first time in 2016. I mean, I've been in the army for a very long time and there was a difference. And this difference was very apparent in the way we reacted in 2016 to attack on a military post. And we went for multiple surgical strikes across the border. Now, people say that India has carried out surgical strikes earlier. I mean, whatever term you want to use, we've crossed the border. But those have been very limited actions. You see, they have been at one point and it has been locally confined. This is the first time where we carried out actions across multiple points, across a 100-kilometer stretch. And then the very next day, the DGMO comes and announces it to the world. Now, that was the impact. And I think it had a very salutary effect, the 2016 surgical strike, because after that, for a very long time, we come to 2019, and then we have the attack on a CRPF convoy. And in retaliation to that, we hit 100 kilometers deep inside Pakistan by air. And that was the first time air power had been used after the 1971 war across Pakistan. Air power was used in the Kargil war, but not across the international border. This time, you went deep inside and you destroyed that camp and you came back, and the rest, of course, is history. Now, even that had a salutary effect, but it wasn't really adequate. And now, after the Pahalgam attack at Baisar Meadow, I personally think that amongst all the terrorist attacks which we have faced, This was the most despicable. I know we have had much more serious attacks. We've had Mumbai 3 days that carried on, more than 100, 150 people killed. In this case, it took place over 45 minutes, 26 people killed. But I think the impact and the psychological impact of this was something which we will never accept. Here, they segregated people in a secular India on the basis of their religion, and then they shot the men dead in front of their wives and children. This was unacceptable. No, I mean, I don't think any country can accept it, and certainly not a government led by Prime Minister Modi. That is the bottom line. So everybody knew that there's going to be action. And now when we actually went across with Operation Sindoor, there were a lot of differences took place actually in this time and between the earlier actions. Now what happens is, for the first time, all the three services planned together. There was total civil-military fusion. There was a political will, the freedom of action. You know, anything which you want to enhance your combat power, that was there. And it had its effect. Now, I won't talk about as to what that we can come to later, but a very simple impact from the first strike last year till today, 1 year has elapsed. In Jammu and Kashmir, not one civilian casualty has taken place. This is the first time in the long history of terrorism of J&K that over a period of 1 year, not a single civilian casualty has taken place. Terrorists have been killed. This year, 9 terrorists have been killed, and in those operations, 1 soldier lost his life. But those are combat operations. When we look at terrorist attacks, it is 0. And I think that has been one of the impacts of Operation Sindoor.
Now, you of course started the book with Jammu Kashmir only, and how Jammu Kashmir has been, because without understanding the history of Jammu Kashmir, we cannot get into this. You mentioned about targeting the camps across LOC, then moving inside LOC and international border, and finally hitting deep inside Pakistan. So the idea of Pakistan, which essentially based on that we are not India, it is a very negative idea. So how this one action is going to deter? Because Pakistan is now claiming more emboldened, more close to US camp, and so how do you see Operation Sindoor actually can be seen as a long-term deterrence for Pakistan?
You know, the first 1/3 of the book, I've actually talked of Jammu and Kashmir and Pakistan. And there was a very specific reason behind it. We have to see as to why this radicalization, the history of Jammu and Kashmir is very important, because even the very question of why Gilgit went to Pakistan has got something to do with the British policies. Right? I mean,
or rather illegally occupied by Pakistan.
Yeah, I mean, illegally occupied. This is Indian territory, you see. And why I'm saying this is because we had no reason to go to the United Nations. This was our territory. We were getting it back. We didn't have to go to anybody else.
But don't you think that, all this is basically the West? They wanted some strategic space between Russia and India.
Yes,
that's how they created this. It has nothing to do with Islam or Hindu Muslim.
They are still working on certain strategies. That is one point. The second is, you see, radicalization came into Jammu and Kashmir sometime in the 60s. It started at a very slow pace. It picked up after the 70s, and then it kept on going up till we saw the genocide. Now, I have put it down in this book. It was not something which was new. The governments of Jammu and Kashmir knew what was happening, and they chose to keep quiet. You see, that is the point. They chose to keep quiet. It wasn't, nobody can, Sheikh Abdullah cannot claim ignorance. Neither can any political party claim ignorance. That is one. The second thing was, when we look at Pakistan, their idea, as you very correctly pointed out, was they became the other. So if India stood for something, they stood for the opposite. And one of their ex-presidents has actually said that if we have to be friends with India, then why did we go separate? Then why did we separate? So they have an ideological conflict within themselves, which is why in my own view, in the present, ever since Pakistan's creation, and the ideology has become more radicalized. The question of saying that we can have Aman ki Asha and peace is not going to happen. So we should be ready for any, they will continue with the using terrorism as an instrument of state policy. So I'm giving that as a given now. I don't expect their behavior to change. So why Sindoor? Now, with Sindoor, what happened was that as a matter of policy itself, we wanted to stop operations immediately. That we have given the message and we said, okay, we won't take it further. Now, that was the aim. Now, Pakistan took it further. We said, okay, you want to take it further, we'll punish you further. So we escalated and we stopped. They carried on again. So like this, it carried on for 2 days till finally on the 10th, in a swift attack, 11 operational airfields of theirs were rendered non-combat. But the two most significant ones was Noor Khan and Sargodha, Mushaf at Sargodha. And in Sargodha, the Mushaf airfield, near that was the Kirana Hills. And one specific bomb went into the Kirana Hills. And it went into a place which was very strategic for them. And after that, the Americans panicked. So why did the Americans panic when just the night before, Vice President Vance was telling the whole world that this is the India-Pakistan war and America is not concerned. And a few hours later, after this attack, suddenly America panics. Pakistan panics because they had lost the ability to control their airspace. And the Pakistanis go to the Americans speak to the Indians tell the Americans, no, if you want to do something, it is a bilateral issue between Pakistan and India, and we will handle it ourselves. So if Pakistan wants peace, let them ask for it. And that is when their DGMO picked up the phone. So ultimately, we achieved that level of escalation control which we required, and we stopped that war.
So and the escalation ladder was controlled
by us, and we maintained that control throughout. Now, if they had gone further, we would have gone further till ultimately they would have stopped. Now, I think this is very important because we see these wars, endless wars going on, Russia, Ukraine going on, the war in Iran is still ongoing. At some point, I think we need to actually stop wars. So I think we did that successfully. Now, the one point which I want to bring out is, do you think this will be the end of terrorism? My answer is no. Because when we are looking at the society in Jammu and Kashmir, they have been radicalized for 30 to 40 years. It is impractical to presume that everything will be over within 1 day or 2 days or 1 year. It will take time. It is a process. That process is underway. And I think within the next
post 370,
post 370 made us, you see, if 370 was still there, we could never have changed it. It was zero. There was no possibility of changing out carrying out any change if 370 was there. So with 370 going, the process started. 2019, August, the process starts. It has, tremendous progress has taken place till date. And I think over the next 2 to 3 years, of maybe 4 years or maximum 5 years, society in Jammu and Kashmir will change. And after that, it will be impossible for Pakistan to continue with terrorism. That is the point.
But they will keep using illegal infiltration as a...
You see, they will still use it, but their ability to get those people and give them
local support,
requisite level of local support will go down. It has already gone down.
Another important feature of Operation Sindoor was the way our armed forces operated in an integrated fashion. Now this CDS and integrated command and all these things were in talks since post Kargil. That was the recommendation, one of the recommendations.
Yes.
How significant it was during Operation Sindoor?
You see, I have read the statements, the statements or rather the talks given by the Air Chief. And the Air Chief, in every talk of his, made it very clear that it was because we had a CDS that the planning was so synchronized. You see, and CDS is just one step, right? And that one step has made such a difference because the planning process of the Army, the Navy and the Air Force, even the Navy took part. People are not aware of the Navy's role. simply because the Navy didn't fire a weapon. But the entire naval, the aircraft carrier and, the carrier group was deployed in the Western Ocean.
Absolutely.
Right? And they were ready for action. So if they had been given orders, within a minute they could have started, operated. So that was very important. So this is the first step has been already executed, the CDS, and it was a very important step. Now the next step is the theatre commands. I think within a year or two, either this year or by next year, the theatre commands are going to come in. And then this entire integration between the services is going to go down, right down to the grassroots, which means better planning, better execution, better logistics, better procurement. I mean, there is nothing which will be left. At the moment, if the Navy is procuring its own system, even if they are similar systems, the Navy will do its own, the Air Force its own, and the Army its own. And that leads to duplication and waste of effort. Now, once all these simple things are synchronized, it makes a huge difference. In interoperability, one. Number two, in the way we organize ourselves, in the way we act with each other. So the synergy which is going to be created is going to be tremendous, and I think that's a very positive step. And I think the last step which really will be required when we get into this synergization is the civil bureaucracy also gets in. So we have civil society in, and we have the armed forces integrated, and then we have a whole of nation approach. That is the war we are leading to, because wars are no longer being fought by the armed forces. The wars are being fought by the nations. That's it.
Sir, we were discussing about the CDS and integrated command. One of the key issues that was discussed in last 10-20 years is about the self-sufficiency in defense preparedness. How far technologically and in terms of procurement we have resolved and addressed this issue? Because earlier the dependence on either Russian or European technology was much higher, one. Two, even for smaller equipment. So you have written at length about the role of public-private partnership in defense preparedness. So how far we have demonstrated that capability through Operation Sindoor?
For a very long time, India's defense, when we're looking at production, we had very limited production capacity and capability. So we used to procure at least 70% of our requirements from abroad. And 30% was indigenous production. I think that ratio has changed tremendously now. Now, one of the reasons why we lagged behind, because when we got independence, we had a reasonably strong industrial defense base, right? I think there was a feeling right from 1947-48 onwards is that India does not have any enemies. So the requirement of defense equipment didn't get the attention it deserved. But of course, over the period of time, people realized that, if a nation cannot defend itself, then it loses its sovereignty. And other people will control your foreign policy. So it has been a slow task, especially in the last, I will say, 2 decades. 1 decade, I will say. The decade before that, from 2004 to 2014 was a lost decade. We had great opportunities, we didn't take them. Now, the process really started in indigenization is 2014 onwards. And defense takes a long time. Now, the two defense industrial bases which got established, which have been established now, and gradually they will strengthen. One is in Tamil Nadu and the second is in UP. Now, what happens is once you have these industrial bases coming up, then the spare parts start getting made. The components are built up indigenously. Otherwise, you have to import all these things. And it is very unfair to ask any of the public sector or the private sector to make something which is very small, which after that people don't know what to do with it because you don't have an industrial base. Now we've got an industrial base which is coming up, and I think over the next 5 to 10 years it will further strengthen. So your defense capability will rise. That is one. Number two, reforms have taken place in the ordnance factories, where all the ordnance factories have been merged into public sector units, right? And I think the OFB, the Ordnance Factory Board, has been disbanded. Now, that was a reform which should have been done, I would say, 30 to 40 years ago, right? But there was problems with people. There was labor. They thought that the union will create problems, etc. But ultimately, somebody had to take the decision. That decision was taken by the present government. Right? I think that is a very important decision. It is the first step. It is not fully complete. But without taking the step, you couldn't have taken any other step. So I think now the next step of indigenization will be, you have to get the private sector in a much larger way. Now, for the first time, we are really having the private sector is having a role, and the role is increasing. So people are saying, why are we giving it to the private sector? My thing is, we have to give much more. Not because the public sector is bad, but the public sector should concentrate on key technologies, on upper end technologies, you see. When you're looking at quantum, when you're looking at AI, when you're looking at, precision systems, which are very, very expensive. That is where the public sector should be in. Normal routine things like, clothing. One of the ordnance factories were manufacturing clothing. Now, India has got such terrific civilian infrastructure, vehicles. We don't need to have a public sector making vehicles.
Absolutely.
So there are a whole range of equipment and goods.
The smaller spare parts now, more than 200 spare parts,
are now being made, right? So this is a very important thing. And gradually, most of your defense
we are now exporting it.
Yes. Now, earlier there was a ban on exports. And I haven't really understood why that ban was there, because it only hurts us, right? Now those bans have been lifted, and to all the friendly countries, we can sell our weapon systems, like the BrahMos has been sold to the Philippines. Now that is a tremendous achievement. We still have certain challenges, and I want to get to these challenges because it is important. One, I think we have a challenge in metallurgy. So when we are looking into a system like engines, we face problems. A lot of research has gone into it, but I think much more effort is required there. And
we tried with Kaveri for a long time.
Yeah, we've tried with Kaveri. No, but we cannot give up on these things. We have to keep trying and do whatever we have to do. So now when the AMCA aircraft is coming up, it's under development. Alongside, if we get the engine, then you will see a game changer. Because once we have the engine, then we don't need too much from others. You see, they are one of the few technologies which
where public sector needs to
where the public sector has to be here, and very strong, right? So in some of these technologies, we have got to go the way we went with ISRO, right? Some systems are so critical that the ISRO is directly under the Prime Minister. We may start thinking of putting certain upper end technologies directly under the PMO. The Prime Minister designates one person to look into it, but the authority comes from the office, and then you can short circuit quite a few procedures, bureaucratic procedures which create delays of years. So those are the changes which I think are required. But the way I have seen it, the progress made in the last 10 years, and I'm not exaggerating, has been more than what has been made in the last 60 years. That is the difference, right? And once you achieve a certain level, then the speed is very fast. We need to trust our private sector. Now, people have told me that, you see, how can you tell them to make your aircraft or your tanks? Security will leak out. Now, my point is, you are buying that weapon from a foreign country. The security has already leaked out. If you are buying your Rafale from France, what security are we talking about? So,
anyway, all over the world, private sector is producing most of the equipment.
In the United States, everything is private sector. So, this fusion between the military and the civil, right, I think is long overdue. And in many places, even when we are looking at upper end technologies for indigenous to indigenize, hand holding may be required. That means we've got to tell the industry, listen, we will support you. Right? The budgets are very large. Now, I don't expect one of these big corporates, to spend, say, 50,000 crores in research, and at the end of it, we don't buy their products. So if that is going to be the attitude, then the big business is not going to come forward. But I'm not saying that they say, okay, you will have to buy from us even if it's a shoddy product. We lay down the guideline. You give us a product of this quality, and we will guarantee that we will take it. Now, once you have some sort of a system, then there should be checks and balances both ways. but don't make it that difficult that the private sector can't come in. Hand holding of the private sector is required. And then we will come to the stage by which we start making our own equipment and we start exporting it. And we have the potential. Software, we are perhaps one of the leaders in the world, right? So when we sort out certain other issues like metallurgy or something, that is there. One more issue which I think is going to be very important in the future, like we've got our NAVIC system. Now NAVIC requires 7 satellites. Now at this point of time, I think a few of the satellites are not really working the way they should. We need to get that in order because NAVIC is one of the most important principles of war. We cannot depend on any other supplier for precision targeting. It has to be our systems. Even if we depend on the American systems, if they introduce a small error by even 10 meters or 20 meters, that is enough. So we lose out on certain capabilities. So in space, I think we've got to put in much more effort. Our space program is one of the most successful programs, but we need many more satellites in the sky. I think that is one thing which we need to do now. We need to, drones, this private sector has come in. And you will see that India will be one of the leading drone powers within a year or 2 years, right? That is because the private sector has come in. Those are the smaller technologies which they can take on, right? Then, surveillance systems, etc. Those are the things which really even the private sector should get into it in a very big way. On all ISR capabilities, on satellites, on that process has started. And we need to build trust and confidence. The private sector is as patriotic as anybody else, right? And once that comes in, I think we should be okay.
Sir, you talked about BrahMos, you talked about ISRO and our space program. One of the key features of Operation Sindoor was the way we demonstrated our capabilities. How significant it is? You mentioned about Philippines. There have been, multiple inquiries about BrahMos also. Of course, initially we got it from, support from Russia, but now we are innovating and, deploying our own capabilities as overheads. So how significant was it that we demonstrated not just technologically but militarily the capability to hit the target?
I think, when we look at BrahMos, it has been jointly manufactured by India and Russia. Our contribution has been as much as the Russians, if not more, right? And we are in a position to even take it up further. Now, very few countries have the capability of sending a missile 200 to 300 kilometers deep, 400 kilometers deep, within a 1 meter error gap. This means that, this table here, I can target this particular table from hundreds of kilometers away and the missile will go through the center. If you saw what happened to the terrorist camp Subhanallah, you see those photographs. So there are 3 domes in that, and we targeted the center dome. And you will see everything else on the roof is clear, but the central dome has been destroyed. And then when the missile goes down and explodes, everything down below has been destroyed. That is precision targeting. The level of precision targeting, loitering ammunitions, drone technologies. I think I retired from the Indian Army in 2009. We didn't have any of these things. Within this last just 2 decades, warfare has changed tremendously, and India is in the race. So we are looking at precision targeting. We are looking at long-range weapon systems. We are looking at communication systems. We are looking at surveillance systems from the sky to the ground, from the satellites to the ground, right? And we are looking at interoperability. There are multiple issues are involved. We are progressing fast in that. But as I made my initial remarks, the private sector still, while the amount of progress which has been made in privatizing things is tremendous, much more will have to be done. And when we do that much more, then again, we will have to do much more. That is the quantum of work which is there. But we are on that path, and I think we are doing very well. We are going to be a major arms exporter in the years to come.
You mentioned about the Subhanallah markers at Bahawalpur.
Yes.
Muridke was equally important.
Yes, Muridke was
equally important simply because of the kind of, terror camp was running there and old targets of Lashkar-e-Toiba's, it was supposed to be the headquarters. So do you think that the terrorist groups also have got the message that, they can't fool around with.
You see, when Muridki and Bahawalpur were the two major headquarters, Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, So, and they were very safe there. Because when you I've written it out in the book also, they were located within civilian localities. So they had a few acres of land and all around it there were civilian localities. So from the air you really couldn't make out. Everything merges, you see. But we knew where they were. And the precision bombing took place only on those targets. Now the message which has gone across to the terrorists is the Indian armed forces, or I won't use the word Indian armed forces now, India. Because it is no longer just the military, you see. It is a whole of India approach, right? That India can hit us anywhere within Pakistan. Now they may go to bed at night and sleep, but they will not know if the missile will come or not. And I think that level of fear didn't exist earlier. It exists now. And there is no place where they can be safe. I've written that also in this book, that at all times the sword of Damocles is hanging over their heads because they don't know. I'm not saying we'll hit them, but they don't know that. And they don't know which target is going to be hit. So when that chap goes to sleep at night, he doesn't know. And I think it's important to keep them under that sort of attention. That you can't just carry out terror.
I think that has exposed the game of Pakistani military also, because most of the people, brothers and family members of top terrorists and Pakistani army officers were, standing there in a queue.
And not just army officers, the senior most army officers.
Yeah.
They were standing there paying obeisance, they very clearly showed it to the world. And not only that, there were some of the terrorists who weren't killed, who were actually also present there. So those photographs also came out, and they were side to side with the military officers, hand to hand, Now, but you see, the whole world knows that Pakistan is involved, but Pakistan has got one advantage which very few countries have. They are placed in a geographical area which is important to the world.
The strategic location.
You see, so at one point of time when the Americans had a problem with Afghanistan, Pakistan became useful. Now the Americans have a problem with Iran, again Pakistan becomes useful. So they have...
No, and as a, they can be a vessel state for anybody.
Anybody. So to that extent,
they can hand over one region to China, one region to US.
And one thing I can tell you, the day the Americans have no use for Pakistan, they will discard them. That is the way they have been playing. So after some time in the Afghanistan war, when they didn't require Pakistan, all the American presidents made a statement that these people are terrorists and we don't want to deal with them. Then suddenly Iran came in. When the tensions built up with Iran, then they said, let's build up with Pakistan. So they have their utility. I can understand geopolitics. It happens. But I don't think that the Pakistan will have universal support across the board. And once their utility goes, all the major powers are going to backtrack from them. China is going to certainly have problems that CPEC will never get constructed. It can never work because it requires peace and stability in Pakistan. And that peace and stability is not going to come. They've got problems in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. They've got problems in Balochistan. Problems are also developing now in parts of Punjab. And in Gilgit-Baltistan, the problems are already there. So there appears to be any place of stability within Pakistan. And that is because they don't have political stability. When the most popular leader is jailed, a man, if he's taken out of jail and they fight elections, that man will win. Now, when you jail a person like that, that leads to political instability. They have not been able to resolve that issue. And because they can't resolve political instability, they cannot resolve the issues pertaining to internal security or to their economy. So Pakistan is going to continue facing challenges at least for the next decade. And it may be much more. That will be their challenge.
One of the most interesting chapters in this book, sir, is chapter 11, the coup de grace, 10th
The
May.
coup de grace.
What actually happened. We have shown with proof that, these many air bases were struck, the kind of losses that Pakistan faced, and we know the sequence of events. But a subject that is very close to your heart is, the strategic communication and information warfare. Still, Pakistan managed to convey victory to their own people. Still, America could claim it was because of this, and President Trump has been repeating it. And you have taken, very, very detailed kind of sequence of events in this chapter. That's why I found this very interesting. So, what do you assess? How do you assess, one, why this happened, and what should we do now that we win the war militarily, and also in terms of narrative and communication, we maintain that superiority?
Now, you see, Pakistan has got their information service. It is under their ISPR, is under their army. Now, while it is under the army, the whole government is also under the army. So what the ISPR says, the Pakistani media says, the Pakistani government says. There is anybody in Pakistan who can go against what the ISPR says. That is the bottom line, right? So they have got a one-point media control. And for them, it becomes a weapon.
So
in India,
having democracy is...
no, it benefits in certain ways. But in India, I have advocated actually something different now. And I advocated it about 10 years back. I said we need to have, on the lines of the National Security Advisor, we need to have a National Information Advisor. So under the Prime Minister, reports directly to the CCS, right? And we will have the NIA and the NSA working in close coordination with each other so that there is one narrative. But we have another challenge actually in India, and that is the political challenge. Now, let us take...
We have seen that with surgical strike also.
Yes, you saw
our own opposition was asking
now,
about it.
The surgical strike, because I have been through all of this, I mean, practically in my entire service, I've seen what happens. Now, I agree that we have actually gone across the border earlier also, right? When we talk of surgical strike, so I have sent my troops across, done something small, come back quietly, but never on this scale. And not only was it on this scale, it was done deliberately to avenge an action, right? So when the Uri strike took place by the Pakistanis, on the terrorists, on the Uri camp, we went for the surgical strike. And not only did we go for the surgical strike, on the successful completion of the strike, India's DGMO took a press conference.
Declared
it. Now, you see, with proofs, we have never done that earlier. That is why this was important. One, the sheer scale of it. It wasn't one attack. One attack we have been doing. I know that. A lot of, I know of instances where even I have sent troops across. You send 10 people across, do some small action, come back. But when you look at the scale was much bigger. It was across domains. Over 100 kilometers, these camps were there.
When across means LOC. So LOC anyway is, technically that is Indian territory, but still you crossed it.
Still you crossed it and you declared it. And do you know, Pakistan tried to deny it happened because they were in the problem that if they accept we did it, they had to retaliate, and they did not know how to retaliate. So which is why they denied it. Okay. Now, when we even in 2019 we went again for the Balakot strike after the CRPF convoy attack. Now again we declared it. The air chief went on air and said it. So these are very important, changes which have taken place in the Indian counter-terrorism philosophy. And the third change which has taken place now in Sindoor after the Pahalgam attack. And many people are still not getting the importance of it, The most important strike which has taken place is on the Indus Water Treaty. Firstly, we shouldn't have had that treaty. But because we had a treaty, then you go with it. And now we made it very clear. Blood and water will not flow together. So the Indus Water Treaty is dead. Similarly, when we are looking at Bangladesh, and the Ganga Water Treaty will elapse at the end of this year. And people are saying we should have friendly relations and do a new treaty. My point is, no upper riparian does a treaty with the lower riparian. Has there been a treaty between China and India over Tibet waters, over the waters of the Brahmaputra? Anywhere in the world have they been done? So it is not to say that we are going to stop Bangladesh's water. But we will be fair. But if they start doing terrorist activities, then these are leverages which you cannot leave. The Indus Water Treaty leverages we should start using now. I'm not saying that we starve them of water, but there is no reason to have a treaty. We are big powers, we are responsible powers, and we will be fair without a treaty. And that should be across the board for all waters, including with Bangladesh and with Pakistan. Then we have that leverage. So this is a very important thing. The second thing, of course, which has happened is that the declaratory intent, the statement by the Prime Minister made a very important statement. He says an act of terror will be viewed as we will not only hit the terrorists, but their sponsors. And this change is dramatic because now we are not going to go after the terrorist camps. We are going to go after the Pakistan military. That has been declared now. It's been made open. Now, these are very significant changes which people miss out. But as a matter of policy and a matter of intent, they are very serious business. So we are moving, that strategic restraint doesn't apply. We went to deterrence in 2016 and 2019 and also in Operation Sindoor. Now we will go to compellence. The next level, we will move into compellence. Right? I'm not saying that it'll work immediately, but we will compel them. Whether it takes one attack or two attacks or three attacks, ultimately, the cost which Pakistan has to bear for terrorism will be made so heavy that they will say on their own drawing boards, isko hum nahi karenge.
As a nation, it has brought a strategic clarity for us.
Yes.
That, any act of terror will be considered as an
I think this word which you use, strategic clarity, it's a very important word. It has brought that strategic clarity. Agar ye hoga, this is what we will do. And not just to the Indian Armed Forces. It has been advertised to the world. So now the world knows that this is going to happen. Pakistan knows. And that is why in this book also I mentioned one of their professors has written very adversely about this, but she hasn't made any mention about terrorists coming in from Pakistan. All that she's saying is India's policy will make it very difficult. Obviously, it will make it very difficult. It is supposed to be difficult. So, from their side, they have to stop terrorism. From our side, we have got no complaints. Our complaint is only with the terrorists. They stop terrorists, everything else stops. I think that is the game which we are playing now. And it's a good thing. There's strategic clarity.
Everybody knows that Pakistan is, the terror sponsoring state. They are training and abetting terrorism, not just in India, all over the world. Somewhere, you will find Islamic radicals hitting some either lone wolf or targets. Some Pakistani link will be there. Despite that, why we are not able to communicate this with the West, and every time the second corollary to this is this nuclear flashpoint business. I don't know what
the first thing is we have communicated it very well to the West. So there is no flaw in the communication that has been done well, which is why Pakistan was also put on the FATF list. They have come out of it now, but they have been put on the list. Everybody in the West knows. But then you see Pakistan is that very fortunate country because of its geographical location. If the America says, okay, I may need this chap, so they let them go.
So the time is now right to communicate with the Pakistani masses also that your military is being used.
But the Pakistani masses have also been radicalized. You see, everybody says that we should deal with the Pakistani masses, but it doesn't work that way. The entire country has been, right from childhood, they are taught. Their school textbooks are teaching that. So, unless there is physical punishment,
because the idea of Pakistan has nothing to do, then idea of Pakistan has nothing to do with Islam.
Yes.
It is basically to do with the strategic interests of the West.
For the West, yes.
For the West.
For Pakistan, it is Islam. For the West, it is their strategic interest. Right? So, now nuclear. The thing is, if we keep getting scared, then we are deterred. Now, once that fear goes out of our mind, and Pakistan says we will use a nuclear bomb, so our response should be very measured. We say, please don't talk like children. Nuclear weapons are strategic weapons. They are not to be used. But please remember, India has a nuclear policy. We have a no first use nuclear policy. But if a nuclear weapon is used against us, we don't have a tit for tat response. our response is total. So when we respond, it will be a total response, right? And if you throw one bomb, we will destroy Pakistan. Now that has to be made very clear. And I think that has been made clear. Pakistanis are also rational actors. They do this drum beating because they think India will get scared. The day you stop getting scared, we saw what happened in Sindoor. Did they do anything? And in future, if they carry out terrorist attacks, well, we will deal with them otherwise. That Hindi film mein, that very famous quote, jo dar gaya, wo mar gaya. So we should never ever get blackmailed by any power. We are a strong nation. We are a civilizational power. We will do everything in a humane manner. But we will not allow our interest to be damaged. I think that is the underlying message which should go across. And we will not be threatened by nuclear blackmail. The Prime Minister has made that very clear in all his speeches. And with that clarity coming from the Prime Minister, I don't think that concern is going to be there anymore. Pakistan cannot blackmail us using the nuclear card. That's over.
Post Operation Sindoor, sir, lastly, I think you should comment on this and perhaps tell our viewers how we should look at this success of Operation Sindoor. One, the post Operation Sindoor, the global scenario had changed a lot, due to what is happening in the West Asia, the entire oil crisis, the Iran war, the way all equations are, reset even between Europe and America. So how do you see post Operation Sindoor? What should be if we really want to carry forward this message that enough is enough? This is our threshold, and beyond that we are not going to tolerate. How should we?
I think that message has already been given in Sindoor. But now what we need to do is, one is continue with your economic growth. There is no better answer than the economy, right? Your economy is strong. That same percentage which we give as percentage of GDP to defense, if your economy doubles, then that money also doubles, right? If your economy halves, even if you double the amount, it is still the same. So the question is your economy, the growth, keep the growth of the economy central. That is what India is about, right? For that, we require internal stability. And I think that is an aspect which we need to focus on. One, internal cohesion. It is not, we are not like Pakistan or something, but we need to ensure that internal cohesion. Now, a few good things which have taken place. Kashmir is gradually getting into peace. The left-wing extremism is practically over, right? And the Northeast is stable. So today we are having internal cohesion, which we have never seen earlier. And that is going to make a difference. This is one. The second thing is, please continue enhancing your combat power. I totally agree that the pen is mightier than the sword. I have no doubts about it. But people always forget the second line. The pen is mightier than the sword only when the sword is there to protect the pen. You take away that protection, other people will come. This is what Indian history has shown over 1,000 years. The sword, you remove the sword, invaders came. So you have the sword, the pen remains powerful. That means we have a democracy, right, where the military is not ruling. That I understand. So the military power must never be diluted, especially when we are finding ourselves in the present scenario. And even when we become a great power, it is incumbent on us to maintain the military power. The way America, you see, America's got no dangers, no countries threatening the mainland, yet they have a military presence across the world. That is why they are number one. So you need a strong economy, and you also need a strong military capability. Both these will go hand in hand. I think we're moving towards that. And yes.
As one year of Operation Sindoor, what would be your message to the common viewers who is not do not understand geopolitics and military strategies much, but how should they look at Operation Sindoor?
To the people of India, I would say, listen, no longer are wars fought by the militaries alone. Today, the front is not the battlefield. The battlefield is the whole country.
Your mind also.
The mind is the most important battlefield, right? So today the mind is the battlefield. Cyber operations are the battlefield. The Bombay Stock Exchange could be the battlefield. Your metro railway systems could be the battlefield. Your airlines, everything is the battlefield, right? So when we fight, it is not just the military, the whole nation is fighting. It is not the militaries which are at war. It is the nation which is at war. So as a nation, we have to rise together. As a nation, on these issues, we must always be together. Politics, we must have differences. That is how democracy is strengthened. So there will be differences in politics, but we should never ever allow those differences to get into the security domain, which will weaken our democracy. That is the message I would like to give.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for sparing the time and, talking in detail. And I'm sure our conversation will create enough curiosity for the viewers to grab this book and read it. So thanks a lot for sparing the time and talking to
Thank you.
Organiser.
And specifically, it has been priced very low so that people can actually buy it.
Yes. So, thank you, viewers. This was General Katoch, and as he said, Operation Sindoor, 88 Hours That Redefined Deterrence. It's published by Suruchi Prakashan of New Delhi, and it has got a very, very detailed analysis of not just Operation Sindoor, but from inception, how India dealt with the entire issue of terrorism and Pakistan, starting from the history of Jammu Kashmir, the way it was created as a problem by the colonial masters. So we hope that when we are, commemorating 1 year of Operation Sindoor, this meaningful conversation with the person who has dealt with the issue in depth with a detailed research about the communication, DGMO level communication, the way we communicated with America, the way we hold our stand clear, and the message that he has delivered. Yes, pens are mightier than sword, only if your pens are protected by sword. I think that is a real message that we should carry home. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching Organiser. If you like the conversation, do subscribe to the channel, share with your near and dear ones, and be voice of the nation. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.